Hello everybody and welcome back to Spacedock. I'm Hojuana and today we're taking a rambling look at mysterious spaceships and examining what makes them work and what they can be used for. I was first inspired to talk about this after seeing, or rather not seeing, the vessel the Bene Gesserit used in Dune. The first time we see this egg-shaped ship, it's a featureless shape heading to the planet, with its actual arrival on the ground obscured by the rain, trees and dark of night, leaving only the lights visible. Some features are picked out in the reflected glow of those lights, but it's never anything concrete. This is in direct contrast to the vessel used by the Emperor's envoy from earlier in the movie, which landed in broad daylight and was met by an honor guard as part of a big ceremonial event with everyone in attendance. Only Lady Jessica is there to meet the Reverend Mother, and she is absolutely terrified of what's going to happen. This contrast sets the idea that while yes, the Emperor is technically the one in charge, and he clearly has great power, the Bene Gesserit are their own thing, not necessarily under his control. They have their own agenda and work in the shadows to achieve it. Also, when their ship departs, it just looks really damn cool with the light beams ascending through the mist. It's got this otherworldly, alien aura to it that I love. It really cements that the Sisterhood has some weird stuff going on with it, even if most of that doesn't show up until the second movie. Another cryptic vessel that Dune has is the Guild Highliners, which are yet to be explained in the Villeneuve movies, unlike the books and other adaptations, and all the better for it in my opinion. They're deliberately left as these strange, vast objects, which is another common way of doing mystery ships, particularly in Star Trek. That setting has V'ger, the whale probe, and I'd argue even the Borg's earliest appearances. Other things like Babylon 5's Shadows and Mass Effect's Reapers kind of fit this too. All of these ships are very clearly shown to us, the viewer, as are their capabilities, but they stand out from other ships since they're so different. They all lack understandable exterior features like engines and such, which is another fantastic way of having something enigmatic and somewhat unknowable. They're advanced and mysterious in ways that are different to being completely hidden, and show that this sense of mystery can induce a sense of wonder and awe. Close Encounters of the Third Kind is brilliant for doing this. We already get a wondrous feeling from seeing the characters' reactions to the UFOs that they see, but we also experience their initial encounters too. But since we see less than the characters do, there's a lot of room left for personal interpretation and imagination to fill the gaps. This is what makes leaving details out so powerful. Relying on the minds of the audience to fill in details and imagine what's not being shown to them is always going to be more interesting to them because they came up with it. This is why you have to be really careful about full reveals of previously hidden stuff, since there's a good chance it won't meet the expectations set by someone's speculation. A botched reveal can often be much worse than just leaving something unsaid or unshown. Thankfully, this doesn't happen with Close Encounters, because while it does end with big reveals about what's going on, it also leaves a lot of unknowns. Yes, we see the big ship, but only the exterior. We don't see the interior because what we imagine it's like is more interesting to us. The fantasy of the wonders inside the ship are something that the deleted scene of the actual interior just couldn't hope to match, so it's good that the final cut left that out. Even just the embarkation area here is kinda lame compared to the big bright light at the door, which is another super common trope to see because the bright light conceals mundane details while implying there is still something there, we just can't see it. It's the inverse of ships in darkness, and usually contrasted against that. As I said, it's a common trope. The Bene Gesserit ship, the Mondoshawan's vessel at the start of Fifth Element, E.T.'s ship, the big saucer near the end of Men in Black, the Illuminates landed warp ships in Helldivers 2, the moment in Independence Day when they're trying to communicate with the ship and it opens its hangar. Lots of these are UFOs or related to them, which overall are all about being mysterious and unknowable. That's the whole deal of flying saucers and their ilk in folklore after all. I do find it interesting that the one in The Day the Earth Stood Still actually avoids doing this, despite it being a classic of flying saucer media. Does that mean it predates the trope? I don't know, maybe. As we've already seen, using lights in this manner is not limited to just entrances. Perhaps the only truly visible part of a ship is the lights mounted to it, which I feel is particularly common to see with alien abduction stuff like in the X-Files. From lights zipping around the sky to terrifying spotlights over people and places, that show did it all. Another admittedly obvious element to mysterious things is the potential to slowly reveal more and more of them as the story progresses, keeping the audience invested in what's going going on without leaving them frustrated at our lack of information. And it's possible to do this without showing too much, with plenty of room left over for speculation and imagination. My example for this is the city destroyers from Independence Day, which go through a number of unveilings as the movie goes on. At first they're big fiery clouds, which part to show the ships themselves. A short while later, the reason they've arrived is revealed as they launch attacks across the planet. And then there's another reveal when we learn about their impenetrable shields, which we later find out are linked to the mothership up in space. So despite these 5 reveals, we actually end up knowing very little about the ships themselves. But that doesn't matter, since there's a steady increase in information about the invaders as the movie goes on, so it feels like we learn a lot. Of course, all this mystery stuff doesn't just apply to spaceships and UFOs. Anything that gets hidden in darkness relies on the power of imagination, and for scary things like monsters, it just happens to work a lot better due to our primal, instinctual fear of the dark. Look at the xenomorph, for example. Yes, it's very well known now, but for the original film it slunk around in the dark and was barely visible for most of the movie, with only brief glimpses of its full form. Yes, this was also done to hide that it's just a guy in a suit, since the audience realizing that's what's going on breaks the illusion, but it's also done to heighten the fear factor. But that only works for one movie. The sequels still rely on darkness and mystery to some degree, but they have to come up with new things to hide within it to get around audience knowledge. This does apply more broadly to things other than just monsters, of course, since we do tend to like seeing new, surprising things in stories, which the Alien franchise is very good at doing, as I've mentioned before in another video. Remember what I was saying about leaving things unsaid? Due to its longevity and number of entries, the Alien franchise has its own share of unveilings that took away from previous mysteries and speculation in ways that you might feel were unsatisfying. Like the derelict pilot just being a marble statue guy in a suit, rather than a weird elephantine being, or whatever the heck was going on in Covenant. But these have also led to new speculation and story options, so maybe it was worth it? The last point to make is that sometimes you don't even need to hide things at all. Seeing the scary thing in all its glory can have more of an effect than concealing it, which again the Alien franchise has made use of with the Queen, Newborn, and Offspring. All of these points are also very dependent on being used in visual media. Films, TV, and games can do these specific tricks with mystery objects because they work with tricks of the light, which you just can't do in, say, an audio drama or a book. But the core method of leaving things up to the audience remains. The imagination is a powerful tool, and mystery is just one way a creator can leverage it. You can support Spacedock by joining our Patreon, where you can get our frigate and spacefighter design reference books. Alternatively, you can support us directly through YouTube by becoming a channel member. Thanks to our supporters, and thank you for watching.